So Spain equals exploit people. Britain equals exploit the land. Now there's a quote, I believe it's from Ayn Rand. I believe she's the one, but it slightly harkens to that quote from Bacon. And that is, Bacon said, he who must command nature, he who would command nature must obey it. Well, either you control nature, or you have to control the men who control nature if you're going to survive. That's what survival depends on. Either you control nature or you control the men who control nature. And the British were very much more honest about this and cut right to the chase and said, if somebody's got to work the land and grow crops and whatever, mine iron, if someone's got to do it, why not us? Who says we can enslave these people to do it? Where the Spanish said, if someone's going to do it, why should we? Someone has to do it, but not us. So very different attitudes. Skip to the end of that paragraph. The story of this failure will now be related. Spain designed a special institution for conquest, for conversion, and for exploitation. For conquest there was the conquistador, or the campaigning general, with an army at his back. We'll pause for a second. There's no similar institution in the British experience. The British didn't land with massive armies, try to take over countryside, rob, rape, and pillage, and then try to take all the stuff back to Europe. They didn't do that. They landed and started colonies to produce resources to send back to the mother country. Not to rob the people there and send stuff back, but to produce things and send them back. So, first of all, the conquistadore. Second, for conversion, there was the friar, the emissary of the church, the religious campaigner. Right? They set up what we call missions. And in California, this was my first hint when I was a kid, since they don't teach anything about history. I was 12 or 13 or something, and we're going down through California looking at the missions on family vacation, and it starts to occur to me that there were people, European people, in California 200-300 years before a white man got hold of it. And I'm wondering, I'm sitting there thinking, not very deeply, but as a youngster who was told about the Mayflower and stuff like that, it's all very confusing how these other people could have been there hundreds of years before and nothing come of it. It's like when European civilization makes some advance, gains ground, it advances and gains the ground. That's not so with the Spanish system. Very difficult to understand when I had no background. Okay, so there was the mission and the religious campaign, or the friar. For exploitation after the conquest was over, there was the encomendero, whose function it was to make a profit from the native and share it with the king. For incorporation, there was a combination of the forces already at hand gathered around the encomendero. Incorporation was attempted when the movable transient forces noted above became stationary and permanent. So once you have conquered the land, you have established military dominance over it, then you establish towns and stuff, you tax the people, you enslave them, you force them into your system, you convert them, you force them to accept your religion, and so on. The conquistador was transmuted into an encomendero, the soldier became a presidial, like a cop sort of, and the evangelizing friar was installed in the mission. The system was not unlike the European feudal system, and, like the feudal system, it rested on a foundation of service. We could call it servitude. Serfs in Europe and Pueblo Indians in America. Without serfdom in Europe, feudalism could not have flourished, and without Pueblo Indians in America, the Spanish colonial system did not stand. So, it was basically just feudalism reborn in America. We skip to the end of the page. The Aztec rulers already held the people in tributary bondage, and the Spaniards merely displaced the native rulers, altering of course, the situation and the institutions to fit their needs. So they came in to a land that was basically what they were trying to set up already. They just had to replace the people who were in power. We skip to the end of that page now, page 91. Now here's some interesting information on the whereabouts of Spanish ranches, or ranchos. It was a small unit of land ownership, and it's going to be mentioning the upper eastern internal provinces, then the western internal provinces, then north of that up into California, so thinking East Texas up towards Louisiana and such, then over on the other side up at New Mexico and up into California, and out of a total of about a total of 6,684. Here's where the numbers were. 52 were in the eastern internal provinces, over toward East Texas, Louisiana, etc. 52. 540 in the western internal provinces. None in California. Okay, you go up high enough in 1810, and California didn't have any. 52 in the east, 540 in the west, 6,092 in the region in and around the Mesa Central, down in Mexico. So these figures show conclusively, quote, that Spain was making no headway in colonization, where the colonies could not be founded squarely upon a native people who would till the fields, tend the cattle, bear the burdens, and work the mines. Because the Indians up north of Mexico were even less civilized, if that's possible, than the Aztecs and so on down in Mexico. And so the tillage of the land and so on couldn't be milked from the people as easily and as frequently. And you see the massive success down in Mexico of the Spanish way of life. And the further north you go, the less the Spanish are able to do, because they couldn't find enough people to exploit. The people didn't have the right type of culture to exploit. This meant that Spain must be limited in colonization activities unless the system followed was altered. It must be limited to regions occupied by sedentary Indians. Alright, there we go. I think there's quite a bit more, and there's some interesting stuff. But I don't think that there's much more to surprise you with. So I'm going to leave it at that. After this, we'll talk more about horses and stuff. It's really interesting, but we've got what we need, don't we, to show the difference between the Spanish and the British system. Sort of like the difference between the Greek system of colonization and the Spartan system, the Athenian system and the Spartan system of colonization. Sparta went out, found agricultural land, enslaved the people, shipped food back to Sparta. Athens just sent boatloads of people out, free to do as they pleased, and they consider themselves a daughter city. Athens is the mother city of them. Very much similar to the way the British system worked. The people went out, they were tied to the mother country, but other than that, they weren't in servitude or anything. Very different, very interesting. If you have ever wondered why Europeans settled all of North and South America, but from the Mexico line south it was an abject failure, and north of that has been history's greatest bonanza of wealth, there's the reason. Because the Spanish wanted to exploit, and the British wanted to work and produce.